Hi everyone, Hugh here, and I just want to start with an apology. Last week on the Six Nations Rewind, my co-hosts all informed me that they thought that Italy were going to defeat England, and I laughed at them and I told them they were wrong, and they weren't. I was wrong. And so I'm going to spend this podcast taking some time to reflect on why I ever believed that England could ever win a rugby match in our lifetimes. And in that time, my colleagues on the panel are going to explain to me why they're so delighted with how things are going for their teams. Anyway, it's a tough time for us all. Let's start the show. I am joined this week by the suitably, similarly adorned Irish Adam and Scottish Ethan. Good evening, gents.
Evening.
Good evening.
This is the Celtic Conspiracy Podcast. I am here as the voice of Wales. No Italy this week, unfortunately, but we assume that all of the Italian podcasters are completely out of their minds, either hungover or drunk or both or neither at the moment. So we are going to talk about England's historic defeat at the hands of Italy and what we thought of what happened in that game. But I'm going to make you wait, and we are going to jump straight into it, Adam, with Ireland defeating Wales on Friday Night Lights in Dublin. 27 points to 17. You got your winning bonus point in the end, but it feels like we are 4 games into 5 out of the Six Nations. We still don't really know if Ireland are any good.
Yeah, I took this game as seeing it like positively in two camps. I could see it, number one, being a very big positive, the fact that we've rotated a lot and we still got a bonus point win out of it. That's one of the positives I got from it. Tom O'Toole being at loose head. This is his second ever start. Well, I think it's his first ever start. I think he came off the bench against Fiji in November, and then of course last week he came off as well to loose head. But I think for me, with the amount of rotation that we have, and it's all like I keep on mentioning this, it's all pretty much forced rotation due to injury. But I look at that team and I go, that was a pretty decent game. Like I think Wales's defense was superb. Not in the first like 5 minutes, but I thought they were just really clinical in their defense. I think they lacked, it was something that I mentioned, I think Ethan, you mentioned also as well in the group chat about how they're missing one more pass. I feel like when they sort that one more pass out, they'll be scoring a lot more tries. But I think Ireland, we didn't make it difficult for ourselves. I think we just made it like we weren't as clinical as we were against England. But it was one of those that I was really pleased with the rotation that went in and the players that are getting game minutes in an Ireland jersey before World Cup and getting a bonus point as well, especially with next weekend on the line. It's crucial because this tournament is so unpredictable. I feel like we need to like match almost the unpredictability of it all as well. But yeah, it was an interesting one. I think for Ireland's sake, I think I was going to mention the penalties actually. I was a bit worried about how many penalties we conceded. Jameson Gibson Park's yellow card, not yellow card. It wasn't Gibson Park's yellow card, but the yellow card as well was. I feel like our discipline, the Six Nations, hasn't been great. Whereas I think those 14 minutes we handled it pretty well. Nathan Doak coming on for his first cap as an Ulster fan, that was really positive. I don't think he was necessarily in it for as long as he wanted it to be, but
His debut was so good that he debuted twice in the same game.
yeah, he debuted twice, and for those 10 minutes, he kept the speed of the ball that Gibson Park was playing, and that's, as an Ulster fan, that's such a benefit because I think last season we were talking about how sometimes his game management could be a little bit slow, but he came on snappy, came on for a second debut as well for the last 5 minutes. I would have wanted him to see more of him. But yeah, very interesting game. I think the kicking, the place kicking is one of those interesting ones where, the 10 debate still lives on. Because yeah, yeah, because Jack Crawley missed two kicks, but I think his game management was superb. He took a
I
very
do
well.
get a bit annoyed when the 10 debate comes down to kicking. Because we've had this for years with South Africa as well, and it's kind of like someone else is allowed to kick. Like
Well,
Wales
yeah,
has Lee Halfpenny doing the kicking. And that was when we had Dan Bigger in the team, and he was like the second best
yeah,
goal kicker in the world. It's just unfortunately he was in the team with the best goal kicker in the world. Ramos kicks for France.
yeah. Well,
It's so
uh,
someone
if
else.
you,
They always this is the thing. Rugby players always post like pictures of them of like forwards doing kicking and training and stuff, and it always goes over. You go, oh look, who could? All right, kick in the game then. Why aren't you kicking in the game then?
yeah, it's like one of those things. Like we did have a kicker on the bench. We had Nathan Doak on the bench as well. Like he could have came on
Yeah.
like on 50 minutes and take the kicks. He's got a relatively high kick percentage this season as well, you know. But yeah, it's just such a weird one. But yeah, I think it's a testament to how good Wales played in defence, but also on the other hand, Ireland not being clinical enough. There's a lot of balls not sticking to hands in the last bit. Balogun did a really good sort of flick, but he also did quite like a loopy like quite a loopy pass out to the wing as well. Gibson Park through an intercept. You know, there's a few things that I was just a bit like, yeah, there's things that still need tightened up. But at the end of the day, I think a bonus point win against Wales, given the context of how this weekend went, I think we got away pretty scot-free, to be honest with you, compared to the
Well,
other teams.
the I f- maybe it's just a bit of the case of like after the Lord's match show, and a record victory against England, and then you're coming in against Wales, you made a few changes. Maybe it's just they weren't at it because I didn't feel like there was the intensity. You started amazingly, and Wales started really badly. And if it wasn't
Mhm.
for that fumbled ball at the back of a ruck just before the second try that was disallowed, I think it could have gone on to be an absolute hiding. But Wales kind of rallied from there. I'll talk more
Yeah,
about what I thought of Wales in a bit, but it was the fact that you kept trying to play from your own half that really got
yeah.
me. I was like, what are you doing? This isn't how you do
Yeah.
international rugby. I don't understand. Because when you actually got into Wales's 22, you averaged 3.3 points per 22 entry, which is good. That's above average. So why were you wasting all your time trying to do phases in your own half? You had
I think
138 rucks in this game. That's like being back in the Joe Schmidt era.
I think there was a lot of the Joe Schmidt era about this team, to be fair, but I think with the first 5 minutes, to be fair, we made it look almost like a training game, how we were like bashing into the Welsh defense. I think Stuart McCluskey just kept on battering at your boys in the first 5 minutes, and it was just like bodies flying everywhere. But I think the playing from inside our own half, I think it was more due to like almost the threat of Reece Zammit. I think Reece Zammit had a pretty good kicking game in
He's got
general.
a deceptively long boot on him.
He
Turns out
does
leg strength is good for more than one thing.
well, yeah, he had a good kicking game on him. Also as well, the threat of your back three was very much prevalent. I think Elliot Mee had a couple of good pass and a couple of good carries and a couple of good tackles as well. Like I do think well, of course, our defense for the try in the second half. Oh, I need to remind myself of his name. Your prop, your loose head prop,
Reese
just
Carey,
Reece Carey,
or
absolutely.
Reese Biel Carey, as he's now known.
Well, it was probably the fastest I've ever seen a loose head prop. Like his front row license must be chopped up in the sidestep as well. It's the fact that he gassed a couple of players, sidestepped Rob Balogun. Balogun kept up, which I think in the front row union laws,
the
his card might be
the
okay.
the
But
double take from Balogun was hilarious because he's kind of like gone, there's a prop and I'm marking the guy on the outside. Oh no!
yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah, it was one of those where he's deceptively large but deceptively quick as well. Like he just but yeah, it was a really good take and try. I think it was one of those where I sat up on my seat a little bit and I just thought, oh, there could be something here. But I did think that we had like we I think we used our bench pretty well. I think he's really I think for an Ireland fan, Tag Furlong didn't have a great match. It was sort of like one of those games where I was looking at
He
it going,
lost his head in the second half. He
he
chucked
really
Nicky Smith to the ground, and then he gave away a scrum penalty immediately after that, and then he got the shepherd's crook. He was gone. Faz was like, Jesus, Jesus, Tig, after all I've done for you.
yeah, yeah, but it's the thing. It's like it was really weird to see because when he did that, I sort of thought, oh, is this like the sign of a prop like nearly being done? Like, it's one of those where Clarkson came on and did okay. I think Tom Stewart coming on for his debut to a Six Nations debut, he was one of those that went on and did okay as well. Like there was a couple of players that like I think for international minutes, it's really valuable to give them time. Ringrose, the Six Nations, not convinced. I think he's lacked a yard
I
or two of
thought
pace.
when you consider that Gary Ringrose has just come off the back of a Lions tour and Eddie James is playing about his sixth ever game at outside centre, I thought Eddie James got the better of him.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say Eddie. Oops, sorry.
No,
oh no,
Ethan,
no,
you go. You
Ethan,
haven't
go.
spoken yet.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say Eddie James to me is probably one of the highlights for Wales. That I only just learned his name a few minutes ago because I kept forgetting to actually search it up. I was like, oh, the Wales 13. That he was just always carrying hard, and that's just the sort of thing, as Adam mentioned, that if he was able to have someone beside him and pop that pass to, Wales would have made a lot more dents in the Irish defence.
I, like it's one of those that I think from an Ireland standpoint, I don't think Ringrose necessarily since that Lions tour, since the injury, has been the same. Um, because I think this season especially, he's been relatively like when you but I think it might be a bit harsh because you have Stuart McCloskey having in the form of his life, but Ringrose looked quite slow to me, and he didn't look like he got like this Six Nations being a really interesting one where he's normally he's one of our star players, and he normally has really exciting moments, but he hasn't really done much in my books anyway. To
Are you
think
saying
this
that
is
it's
when
Jude Postlethwaite o'clock?
I would love it if it was Jude. I thought this was the game to start Jude Postlethwaite, to be honest with you. With the amount of Ulster lads in that team, I was like, oh yeah, let's go. Um, speaking of Ulster lads, Jacob Stockdale getting his first Six Nations try in 5 years is outrageous. It was one of those where I was just like, he's not scored. Like he hasn't really been picked in the Ireland squad due to injury and form and stuff like that. But you could see the relaxed look in his face. He loves scoring against Wales. Like I don't think there's a player that scored against Wales more than Jacob Stockdale. But yeah, he's sixth in the all-time try scoring list. So he's still got it. But yeah, I think it's a testament to Wales how quiet they kept the backline. Um, because as we said, the backline was on fire. Gibson Park was got away with so much space against England. It was sort of like you were all just funneling into the like as soon as the Ireland attack tried to start going, that's when your Wales's blitz defense was like superb. It was almost like you had Sean Edwards back, but it was that sort of blitz defense that came up and they were really in their faces, and I think it shocked Ireland a bit. I think that was what made the game so close. And I did say last week I really wanted this to be a close game, and by 12-10 at halftime, I was like, I think retrospectively for the Six Nations and for Wales, this is a pretty good game for yous. Of course, you just didn't get the win, but I think there was more positives than negatives, and yeah, from a Wales standpoint.
Yeah. Ethan, I'll get your thoughts before I launch into Wales.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I can't remember who said it, but it's the sort of thing that it reminds me of what Bath has done under, is it Van Graaf,
Yeah,
in
Van
that they
Graham, yeah.
um made the team hard to beat first and then focusing on attack and stuff. That I thought the Welsh defense was incredible. Um, that's really come across or come so much. I'm losing all my English. It's come so far in the last few games that if you compared this game versus the one against England, it's night and day for how much better Wales is. Not there yet.
Yes. Yeah.
Not there yet. They still have, as we're talking about, like the attack to improve on and things. But yeah, it's I will come on to predictions later, but I think they might have a good chance next week.
I think for me, there's been a lot of chat about the defense and Alex Mann breaking the record for the number of tackles in a game and stuff, which I think the record was Luke Charteris against Ireland in that game. I can't remember what year it was. It would have been an odd number year. I think it was 17 or it might have been 15. where Ireland had something like 50 phases in Wales' 22, and we held them out and stuff. And but I'm kind of like, we made a lot of tackles, but how well did we really defend? Because, like I said, we still conceded 4 tries. And like I said, when Ireland got to our 22, they did normally get across the try line. Now, is it a lot better than it was? Yes, 100%. And this is the kind of debate, is like, are we improving? Yes. Was the bar on the floor? Yes. So I don't think necessarily we should be getting lots of pats on the back for clearing the bar. However, last week or last game against Scotland was Wales's best game under Steve Tandy so far. And now they've had another best game under Steve Tandy so far, 2 games in a row. So that's good. That's going in the right direction. I also did think that Ireland's attack was pretty unimaginative and pretty meh, and kind of made it easy for us to tackle them. To be honest, they just kind of ran out our players and we stood there and tackled them. Now, like I said, Alex Mann did fantastic. I thought Dewi Lake really threw it about, some massive shots. It was great to see. Dav Jenkins continues to be the busiest player in the Six Nations. He's absolutely ridiculous. I love him. But I think it was getting towards decent rather than really especially good. And it has kind of distracted, the big Hollywood numbers of number of tackles made has kind of distracted, as you said, Ethan, from the attack, where for the second game in a row, we've had 2 line breaks and we've beat 9 defenders, and our top player for defenders beaten is a loosehead prop. That's not the plan. It's nice, it's good, but that all-time try that Reece Carey has just scored, I don't think we can rely on him doing that every week. I mean, class if he can, but I think we should probably have more to our plan than that. And yeah, Adam, you mentioned about the 10 debate, and I'm really trying not to create the same kind of thing in Wales. I've seen more than one Welsh fly half completely destroyed by the 10 debate in Wales and things, and I don't want the same thing to happen to Dan Edwards. But if I'm here to talk about the game, I have to say that something's not clicking with Dan Edwards in this team at the moment. It was initially Ben Thomas who got blamed for it when he was at 12. Now Ben Thomas is not at the team. Now some people are blaming Thomas Williams for it. I'm like, okay. And I think the thing with me with Dan Edwards is I would love to be able to sit here and say he did this and it didn't work out, or he made this decision and it didn't work out. He's not touching the ball. We've got a fly half who's not touching the ball. I think I went back and I rewatched the game and I kept a bit of a tally. Wales scored both of their tries between the 25th and 65th minute. Dan Edwards threw 3 passes in that time, in that 40 minutes. That's I think is for the James Botham try, his only contribution to that attack was he kicked the ball to touch from the penalty. And it's kind of when you're having a game plan which is built around having 2 playmakers at 10 and 12, you can't be having one of those playmakers not touch the ball. And I don't know why it is. And I don't, because this isn't the first game where it's been like that. And I don't know why the coaches are persisting with it. If they want to pick Dan Edwards, they need to have a game plan that plays to his strengths, which are getting the ball in the wide areas, using his deceptive pace, getting first and a second touch, getting the offloads away. Asking him to be a standing 10 and just shoveling the ball on a lot, it isn't his USP. The game plan, if I used a South African analogy, the game plan is set up for a Manny, but we're asking Sasha to be Manny, and then it's different skill sets. So that's kind of my take on that. I've probably already spoken about it more than I wanted to, but yeah. So I think there's still problems with Wales. But we're ticking off the problems one by one. As the weeks go by, we're saying, okay, that which was a massive problem last week wasn't a problem this week. And I agree with you, Ethan, that I think even, we'll get on to talk about Italy later, but even considering what happened in Italy this weekend, I do think that Wales have a chance at that one.
Yeah, I think you mentioned about Dan Edwards, and I just keep on thinking back to the Ulster Ospreys game last season when he caused us so much trouble. Um, it's the same 10, isn't it? It's the one that yeah, he's like a really good like running 10. Like you saying about three passes in between what 40 minutes of play, like for any type of international team not to be exploiting a player on the pitch, especially when it is a 10. I know that you said that your 12 is also a playmaker, but the, that's like when me and well Ethan as well mentioned about that like that last pass. No wonder there's no last pass there if you're like completely like not ignoring your 10, but like if your 10 isn't getting it as involved, then that's one player out of your back line anyway. And you see how well Ireland used it with Sexton for years and the Sexton loop creating that little bit more space,
Great example.
tens are yeah, but tens are vital to that little bit of space or looking around for that kick. But if you're not exploiting, and Dan Edwards is a very good player, I was pretty shocked by how little he was used. I think it wasn't something that occurred to me at the time, but when you mentioned it there, I was sort of like recollecting back, going, yeah, he wasn't used that much. But like the way that Sam Costello would have been used at the start of at the start of the Six Nations, he got a lot of the ball. So yeah, it's a really interesting play there.
Mm, yeah. So, like I said, I think that Wales are improving. I th It'll be interesting to see how the back row balance shifts when Jack Morgan's back in. I was talking to Harley, shout out Harley about this, and he said that he just thinks Jack Morgan is just a slightly better version of James Botham. So unfortunately, Botham has to probably drop to the bench. Um, but I think Alex Mann deserves a lot of praise. He's not a player who you look at and immediately think, "Ooh, I can see what he's going to bring." But like his intercept on our own try line in the first half was just sensational.
Yeah.
And I think a part of that does speak to how kind of predictable Ireland's attack was, but you don't see that every day. So I think he deserves all the credit in the world. Anyway, that's game one ticked off. I'm still going to make everybody wait until we get into England bashing. But in the meantime, if you're enjoying what you're hearing so far, please consider subscribing to the Global Gain Line on YouTube. We are not just a Six Nations show. You'll get a dedicated Irish show this week. You'll get a dedicated French show. I'll know you want to tune into that. You might get a dedicated South African show. We'll see about it. The women's show, Women's Rugby Treehouse, is back. Definitely check that out. There's so much to talk about there. Once the Six Nations is over, we'll go back to being a URC show. And Scrum of the Earth is on this channel as well. You just got to keep paying attention because there's lots going on. So it's a bit of rugby from a bit of everywhere. And if that sounds like a bit of you, please consider subscribing. Right. Game number 2. What do they call numero deux? What's number 2 in Scottish, Ethan?
I actually don't know. It'd be twa. Well, if you're Dundonian, it'd be twa.
Okay, right. Excellent.
That
It's a
sounds
cultural
very
show,
French
everybody.
sounding. Yeah, fair enough. You learn a bit every day.
50 points to 40. What is this? Super Rugby? What's going
Yeah.
on? You don't see scorelines like that every day. And it was a ridiculous game. I was in shock watching it. I was genuinely slightly traumatized by watching this rugby match. I think, Ethan, just try and sum up your experience of taking in this one.
I think it's probably, as a lot of people are saying, that it's the best Scotland performance, quite possibly in the modern era. That this was the most professional they've been. It was just a demolition of France. Um, they they did everything right for the first 60. It went a bit sideways, but I think there's some reasons for that, which aren't the usual suspects. It's more due to some unfortunate injuries, and with the 6-2 bench, it got a bit awkward. But no, Scotland did everything right. They established a quick lead and put France under pressure. I think if you look at the penalties, I think Scotland had 4 penalties, which
Yes.
not only is insane from a Scotland point of view, um, considering how stupid Scotland can be at times. But France were desperate. Um, and it was quite funny seeing Dupont doing a forward pass in his own goal area out of
That was
desperation.
bizarre.
Yeah,
Any other player in the world would be dropped for that.
yeah. It just shows you the power of that one pillar in the away changing room, and it just ruins the mentality. Um, but oh my gosh, Kyle Stein was just unplayable. He just ran through the French defense. They just left it open for him. He just walked in. And that it was his second try that I was saying in the group chat, just because everyone was knackered by that point. I think that was still the first half. And I can't remember who was chasing them, but you could tell they were both tired and that it didn't look that fast. But oh my gosh.
It was
No, he's
very Glasgow-like, the
yeah,
Scotland performance, I thought.
yeah. And I was thinking about this earlier. I don't know if that's weirdly Townsend trying to like dig back into his time at Glasgow and trying to like synthesize what works well with him and that what's working well at the moment with Glasgow. Because obviously, as we discussed before, in November, no, December, that Glasgow beating Toulouse in a very, very different circumstances, but equally just as impressive that you've got them. Finn's played in France. Ben White's playing in France. Kinghorn's playing in France. That they all know each other quite well. And yeah, France were just caught. It was what, the first time they'd ever been behind this tournament? Is that right? And they just couldn't
Yes.
cope. They weren't out of the game completely, but I think it was just the sheer succession of those tries just made them completely lose it until I think the pivotal moment for me was Tom Jordan's miss pass to Darcy, which would have been a try. And France were able to just regather from there on. And then you've got Josh Bayless's stupid yellow card as well, because we didn't need France to get a bonus point. And that makes things awkward for next week. But, Scotland loves doing things the really hard way. Um, but yeah, no, if Townsend plays like gets him to play like that every other day, he's going to be coach for life, and I would be happy with that.
Yeah, that's a bit awkward
Yeah,
if he's already signed a contract with Red
Red
Bulls.
Bulls. Yeah,
Um, I think no, I'll go to Adam first before I go on to that. Adam, what was your take on this game?
I think it's the most fun I've had watching a rugby game. Um, well, since that France-England game where it was like 55-33 and
I,
England
I,
lost the Six Nations due to 5 points.
I
That
had an uncle who doesn't normally watch rugby WhatsApp me saying, "I'm watching this game. This is good. I can see why you're into this." And I was like,
yeah.
"It's not normally like this. Don't.
No.
If the next game you watch isn't like this, don't blame me."
But it was incredible. Like when I when like it was one of those games where it was always in the back of our heads, like it's sort of like the game that we're going to mention later on. Could they do it? Could they do it? And then the first half, I was just my jaw had to be picked up from the floor. Scotland were superb. Uh, just in every aspect of attack. Stein and Darcy Graham was playing like Cheslin Colby. I put that in the group chat and I was just like, he's bouncing off, boys. He was making that French back three look really shoddy. Like Dupont looked really shaken. I think this is the
This is
first time that we've seen him shaken up.
It was his worst ever game for France, in my opinion.
Yeah.
yeah,
Which is really interesting. It creates a whole new like narrative behind the Six Nations, and it's my duty to be like, thank you to Scotland for making next Super Saturday set up to be one of quite a dramatic Super Saturday, possibly. Like, if not, like if France would have won it, we would have been speaking like, oh, it
yeah,
was next year, but. Scotland look a genuine threat, and I'm really worried about next week, considering what France did to us. And then like it makes all of our games, like the game against Wales, look a lot better than it did because of how well Scotland played there. But it makes our game against France look a bit shoddy now. So yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm quite worried for next week. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's there's so much to say about this game, and if you go back through it, obviously Scotland scored first, but then you have to remember that France did get back in the lead after that,
Yeah,
and there was a
Yeah.
period after the kind of 10 to 25 minutes where France were really on top, and you thought, oh, okay, they're just going through the gears here, they're going to get the job done. And they kind of had a try from nothing, turning the ball over in Scotland's 22 off a scrum exit, and then a really, really well taken try. Louis Bielby and Theo Atisobe combining really nicely. And you kind of thought, here we go. Okay, championship's on its way. But no, Scotland just got back into it. And the part of it was France's discipline. And the France's discipline just went crazy in this match. Like, if they, according to the official stats, they only gave away 10 penalties. However, I have been back and counted and checked. On top of those 10 penalties, they had 4 more penalties where the whistle was never blown. So 3, a try was scored, so the penalty was never awarded, and 1 was superseded by another later penalty in the same sequence. Now, for the two of the 3 where a try was scored, they got a yellow card. So it seems to me ridiculous not to count those penalties. They resulted in a yellow card, but they don't appear in the penalty count. So, but if you look at the first 4 penalties, the first one's a scrum penalty. Okay, whatever. Second one is a tackle off the ball. Third one is playing the 9, Jegu crazily playing the 9 at the back of the ruck. And the third one is Julian Marchand. There's a Scotland ruck. Ben White's coming to the ruck. Marchand stands up from an offside position and just stands in between White and the ruck.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are you doing, you idiot? And maybe it's because in the top 14, if he was doing that for Toulouse, the TMO would go, TMO, check. What jersey is he wearing? Toulouse jersey, play on, lads. Maybe it's just a bit of that. But like, if you listen, when Angus Gardner gave Antoine Dupont the first warning, he said, you've had 3 penalties. And he said, but they're such stupid penalties. You've had a tackle off the ball, playing the 9, getting in the way here. He's just come from nowhere, done that to the scrum half. Just complete brain explosion penalties. Then you got Dupont throwing an intercept, a forward pass behind his own try line. And some of the later penalties, Jegu's gouge, which was a really bad miss from the officials. The commentators called it in real time.
Yeah. What was apparently, I don't know who mentioned it to them. I think it apparently might have been Pete Horn when he was on the pitch giving water or whatever. And the gardener said, oh, that's a review process afterwards, making it sound like, well, you know about it. You have the power to do something. Don't wait till he blasts somebody else's eyes with his fingers.
Yeah. And he went on to score a try as well. But like I said, the penalties were ridiculous. Now, as the game went on, the penalties did become quite harsh against France. I did think that they sorted their discipline out, and there were a couple of ones where you're like, whoa, you don't see many of them given. Really technical stuff. And a lot of them were coming in from the ARs as well, where Gardner had gone, play on, it's fine. And the AR had gone, no, you need to stop. It's been a penalty here. And Gardner's gone, oh, right, okay. So, but the reason that it got like that is because France was so stupid in the first half. And there's that. And then the thing about Scotland's performance that I think really undid France was the ball retention from Scotland was just absolutely phenomenal. What kind of situations do France want? What are they most dangerous in? Unstructured turnovers, transitions, counterattacks. And it sounds easy of like how to beat France. Just don't give them any transitions. That's a lot easier said than done. However, I've got a stat for you. So if I go on the Opta Analyst Club Rugby Stats website, okay, for this season, and then I go on teams, I go on attack, and then I filter touches per error. So you're looking for a high number here. So what this is the most touches between errors. So how long can you go without creating an error or committing an error? The best club side in the world currently, Glasgow Warriors. The second best club side in the world currently, Edinburgh. So the 2 Scottish teams are the teams best at going long phases of play without making an error. And I think that just shows how Scotland did this to France. They dominated territory, they dominated possession, and they did not give France those turnovers. Now, unfortunately for Scotland, France's rugby players are still, in my opinion, a good step better than everybody else's rugby players in the tournament as a general rule. So that means that a France rugby team that completely falls apart, has complete brain explosions, still scored 40 points in a game of international rugby. Unfortunately, they conceded 50. But it just goes to show that France is still top of the Six Nations. So they can play that badly and still score that many points. It was a crazy game of rugby. We won't see a game of rugby like that again for a long time, for maybe a decade.
It was like, I think Ben White really, like, I think that's probably one, like, I really like watching scrum halves play, and Ben White was superb. He was incredible. I think he was an absolute menace around the rucks, and I feel like the ball retention stat, like, I know that he plays for Toulon now, but he was so quick and he was so it was aware of everything, and I feel like the confidence given to him having like that back line that Scotland have as well outside him gives him all the confidence in the world. And when that forward pack was motoring, jeez, it was just like, it was just a French explosion of like, it was the French's eight, France's eight, when the concussion test went off in his mouth guard, and he just picked it up and he was like shouting at the mouth guard.
Mhm.
Like, I was just like, oh, they've got him truly rattled here, like, to the point where we've got a grown man shouting at something that can save his life. But I was just like, it was just mad. It was just fair play to Scotland.
Yeah, I think, oh gosh, it was in the post-match interviews. Sione was saying, it's don't think about trying to keep France out when we're in the lead, keep adding to
Mhm.
that lead, keep playing. And I think that really showed. And I feel like that's quite a good mentality shift. And, like, don't worry about the lead,
Mhm.
just keep playing.
He, I thought he was amazing in this game, by the way, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
his hands millimeters before contact are unbelievable. Maybe probably the best in the world. Or if you think like he's carried into contact, oh no, the bloke next to him's got the ball. It's you see because it's such all 12s have to be able to do is play close to the line, and the closer your 12 can play to the line, the more tries that you'll score, especially in the opposition 22. And I think that he can take it the closest and still get the pass away, and it's just a joy to watch. And also, he's not been getting the credit this Six Nations because I think people just are, are used to it now. Finn Russell is amazing. He's
Yep.
I think he's the first ever Scottish rugby player to win 50 test matches, was the stat that I saw today.
Yep.
Um, I think he might be the best Scottish rugby player of all time. I, he's if this was some kid who we'd never seen before who'd come into the Six Nations who was doing this, we'd all be falling off our chairs. But because it's Finn Russell, people are just like, oh, it's a bit quiet this game. He wasn't. Like, if you go back and which I've done 2 rounds in a row, if you go back and watch Scotland games twice, you're like, oh wow, okay, yeah, he's really good. Like even like his tackle evasion is really underrated. If I go back to the player stats, attack, if I go on tackle evasion, Finn Russell is right up there. I think he's the top player in the English Premiership. No, Jack Branson for Saracens beats him, but Finn Russell's played more than double the minutes. So yeah, Finn Russell has got uh, better tackle evasion than Madosh Tambwe. So there you go.
Brilliant. Like, it was just like, it was one of those where, as we said, like, this weekend's probably one of, for quality of rugby's sake, the best weekends. And that's results aside, but for quality of rugby, it was just like one of the best. It's like, it was like a great advert for Northern Hemisphere rugby, but also in a way it kind of terrifies me to look at Northern Hemisphere rugby when we're all beating each other, and it's like, oh, let's look at the championship and see how those guys are doing, and they're all beating each other as well. So it makes everything really interesting. I think that's when this Nations League start up, and like, summer is going to be really interesting to see how serious the teams take it. Um, because yeah, there's like a couple of really like healthy matchups there that you would have Scotland down to like win a couple of games like in the Southern Hemisphere as well. And it sort of reminds me of Ireland when we played New Zealand in Chicago. When you mentioned how they just went in saying just score points. They didn't put their head down, they just kept on scoring and scoring. It sort of reminded me of that Chicago match, and it was very. I think I mentioned on the Interpro show, I had a half comment. I was like, kind of reminds me of Joe Schmidt at the very start of the Ireland, like 2016-ish, like the different years around that, sort of that attack in transition and ball retention. But yeah, incredible, fair play.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably what Townsend's best result, I think. Because he's always struggled. I mean, sure, he's beaten France a few times, but I think the 2020 was 2020, 2021 when beat them in Paris in like the last
21.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gave Wales the title.
yeah, it was a bit. As much as that was a good win, France were trying to beat us by a certain margin to win the title. So, because I remember one of their players could have kicked it out, but they kept it in, and that ultimately led to us scoring and winning the match. It's like, well, France were trying to keep the game going by that point. So this one, was more of like a natural win, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Um, so I mean, obviously, 2024, there was the Sam Skinner controversy try, but no, I feel like this French team's probably the best they've actually been in quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to ask questions now about the French mentality because they bottled a championship here. You have to remember, like, if they got a bonus point win in this game, and the title was theirs. They screwed up a game against England away last season, lost it by a point with the final thing of the game. They were dropping balls left, right, and centre. Lost to 14-man South Africa at home. The big games, they're not getting the job done. And like I said, they had proper brain explosions. So, yeah, concerning for France. Anyway, for the audio people, if you're listening on audio, please consider giving a 5-star rating and leaving a comment, as you can now do on Spotify, or even the best thing that you can do is sharing a link with a friend. It's really hard to grow audio platforms. So if you're enjoying what you are listening to so far, please consider dropping a line to a mate and saying, hey, this podcast is decent. Give it a go. It's a bit different to the rest. So much appreciated to anybody who helps us out on that front in advance. Okay, the moment we have all been waiting for. History makers in Rome. Italy 23, England 18. Are you not entertained? First ever win for Italy against England ever in any game ever. And didn't we enjoy it? Now, we shall get on to the England institutionalized generational fraudulence. Oh, we shall get onto it. But let's talk about Italy first. Who wants to talk about what they made of Italy in this game?
I'm just trying to remember. I will be honest, it wasn't the most exciting game. I did I did kind of clock out a few times. But gosh, was it Brax and Monticello? They really do live up to the hype.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you see that, it was like, so if it was done in sort of retrospective, like England were like fairly average. Italy didn't have a great first half, and then something clicked in the second half that made it that like, oh, like Italy didn't really play with much of the ball. I'm just looking up the possession stats because I was like, I don't really remember them having the ball as much, but it was like, yeah, 44% to 56%. They were they were just like completely, like they were taking everything like well when it came up to them. Like Menoncello was just, yeah, he just went through.
He's world class. He was the
Yeah,
best player on the pitch by miles. He lives up to the hype. Stade Toulousain are getting the checkbook out to pay him whatever he wants to come and play for them, and they can have any player in the world they want. Toulouse can, and they're getting him. He was the reason that Italy won this game. I agree with you, Ethan. I think it was a poor game of rugby. The quality wasn't incredible, and it was very frustrating to watch at times. But Tommaso Mancello said, "Nah, lads, I'm making history today." And 80 minutes, 89 meters, 9 carries, 7 out of 9 tackles, 5 passes, 5 defenders beat, 3 line breaks, 2 dominant hits, 1 try assist. Italy only scored 2 tries, and 0 penalties conceded. He was the difference, and there was no player on the England side who was fit to lace his boots on the day.
No, not at all. I think this is like it was one of those when you have a generational talent like Menicello come through Italy. It's really starts to make you think like, is this a turning point? Like this is an Italian team that what 2 or 3 years ago everyone was like, why do we give Georgia a go? But it's like the Italian like I wouldn't even call it an experiment, but the Italian job is working and they're on course for their most successful Six Nations ever. I presume, like, beating Scotland, beating that very good Scotland. Like, this
Their
is what I
best
mean.
Six
The Six
Nations
Nations is meant
ever at the moment is 2 wins and a draw.
2 wins in it. So, and they're coming against Wales next week, and that could be a very interesting game in itself. I just feel like this Italian team have the belief, and it's really terrifying because they know they can win now. Um, once they start winning, the floodgates have opened, and it's almost sort of like, oh, right, okay. They know they can win now. They've got to win against Australia, a win against Scotland, and a win against England now this season. Menicello is one of the best players in the world. Gabrici, I think has found his form now.
Oh, I thought he was
With it,
poor. Which one are you talking
I
about?
Paulo. I think
Yeah,
Paulo.
yeah.
I think his brother didn't really do great.
I thought his I'm sorry, Alessandro. I thought his brother stunk the place out, to be honest. I thought he was really poor.
Yeah, it was one of those, but I think like off the kicking tee as well. As we said, there was only 2 tries, and to win 23-18, it was just like the limbs at full time was incredible. One of my mates was at it. It was his first England game. And I was like, what a game to go to. You're going to Rome, Italy, you always think you might get a win. And then, yeah, I sent him a message at full time going, at least the atmosphere was really good and you got to see a bit of history. It was
I
one of
was
those.
there.
Yeah, but I was just like, the atmosphere was incredible. And like, I've never seen like, rugby is one of those games where you see 6'5" lads that are like 20 stone break down in tears after like it felt like such a weight has been taken off their shoulders now, and it's like, yeah, Italy have came to play now. They are one
It,
of the big
it's
boys
their
in the Six
f-
Nations.
it's their first win against not Wales or Scotland since 2013.
That's mental in itself. Like, considering the performances that we've seen them do over the last couple of years, they used to be the boys that we would always go like, that's an easy 40-point win there. But they played a really good game against us in the Aviva.
I think that was their best
Um,
performance of the championship against
yeah,
Ireland.
like that's a bonus point that we're gonna like continue to rue because like if we had that bonus point, it would be a much more interesting week for us next week. But yeah, fair play to Italy. They deserved it. And it was just so good to see like it was good to see an England loss. Like of course, like we wouldn't be Celtic and not saying that, but just the emotion that was let out when that full time whistle went, it was like something out of like one of those like an Oscar winning performance. It was just brilliant. It was just like but yeah, it was like that last 5 minutes, it wasn't really edge of your seat stuff. I felt like England had a pretty one-dimensional game, and I don't know if that's because most of their team has been changed from the last game, but you can't be starting the likes of Elliot Daly at 15, and if you want to progress on, it was just mental. Some of the selections.
Oh, absolutely. We will get onto the selections. Like I said, I don't think it was a particularly great Italy performance, and I've seen Fred, the Italian rugby foreman posted this, Brits and Scrums posted this, saying that it was probably Italy's worst performance of the Six Nations, and I agree with that. Yeah, they got the job done. I think that the expectation and the occasion weighed on them. I think they knew that this was their best chance to beat England, and that contributed to it. When they had a 2-man advantage briefly, and they had a line out in England's 22, and they got driven into touch, I was like, I'm done. I am done with this Italian team. They're never going to win anything, and then they did. Ethan, just last word on Italy before we talk about England. Just
think
just how good, basically.
it was an incredibly ugly win, but I mean,
Yes.
just get us a win. And that's the thing. Like, this was probably England at their most fragile that they've been, they came into the tournament with what, a 12 win streak, completely smashed Wales, then got hit harder by reality than Richard Hammond driving his car. And just, yeah, they're having a bit of a crisis. And then, you know, Italy's on the up. They've had, some reinforcement. Sure, they didn't have Capozzo or anyone, but, they're arguably a bit stronger than they were in the first few weeks, with certain players coming back at home, having done fairly well against England the last time they were at home. It was kind of do or die that they had to win it.
Oh, absolutely. This was the chance. This was absolutely the chance. So coming on to talking about England now, like generational fraudulence. Like it's how can it be this bad? The Borthwick Empire has collapsed in real time in front of us over the last 3 weeks, and it has been glorious. And like from the moment the team sheet came out, and no, I'm saying this, I predicted England to win, so I'm eating humble pie here. But the the team sheet came out 9 changes. And I was kind of like on the fence of like, well, they've just had 2 really bad defeats. So he had to change it up, but then just completely rip up the team entirely from there. And you're like, cool, but you don't have the players to do that. You don't have the quality of people to come in. Like you said, Adam, Elliot Daly, starting a Six Nations at fullback in 2026.
Yeah.
Like you don't have the players to bring in. Atkinson at 12, was he on the pitch? Did anybody see him? What other Six Nations team does half of these backs get into?
It's like like also bench management. Bench management is something that is crucial in a game of rugby. I'm looking at the bench management here. Jamie George played 75 minutes. He's retiring this season. You've got Cunningham South and Henry Pollock coming off on the 72nd and the 75th minute, respectively. Like you had Elliot Daly come off in the 72nd minute for Marcus Smith. Like what did Botherick see that we didn't to be like, oh yeah, we're fine. I'm gonna substitute off Guy Pepper off the 75th minute, and we're just gonna see how that goes and hopefully get a win out of it. Like, you need to be using your bench. Like it's something that it's just you need to be using your bench more tactically than that. And having Jamie George, you know, playing for 75 minutes isn't that. Like it isn't that at all. And Marcus Smith came on for 8 minutes of absolute howler after absolute howler.
Italy put bombs on him twice and he dropped both of them.
Yeah, it was just like that generational head loss, but I think it was a generational head loss from Botherick as well. But like considering that what three out of the bench, no, four out of the bench came on after the 70th minute shows that. Like, he clearly didn't trust anyone on his bench. He didn't trust anyone on the pitch either. But who can you trust? He can't trust himself at the minute. It
The,
was
the
just such bad game management.
the moment for me that said it all for England was the last moment of the game. Italy had a penalty and they kicked out to touch. England's only chance to not lose was to steal the line out, and they didn't even jump. They just let Italy catch it, and then they kind of stopped them all, and then they just let them kick it out. They accepted a first ever loss to Italy, and it's insane. It's absolutely insane what we've witnessed England's fall from 12 wins in a row. And now people are going back over that like, oh, who did they beat? How well did they actually play? People are revising history on that. But again, I just come back to the team. Look at that England backline. Which players are you jealous of? Do you remember when they had like Manu Tuilagi and stuff? And yeah,
Yeah.
he was made of glass, but you're like, oh, Manu's playing. No, that kind of thing. Well, Owen Farrell, we'd begrudgingly go, oh, yeah, he is good though. And like, or when Elliot Daly was like playing on the wing and stuff, you're like, oh, he's a class player, he's a tidy player. That you're not looking at this England team now and going, oh, he's good. I hope he has a quiet game. I hope he gets injured in the first 10 minutes. You're not thinking that anymore. I'm coming at this from a Wales fan's point of view. I'm like, "Yeah, keep your players. Well, I like the ones that we've got, thanks. And we are the worst we've ever been. So how bad must you be? And it's like, okay, right. Let's get on to it now as well. We are predominantly a URC podcast, right? England have just lost to a team comprised of, the odd top 14 player, the 13th best team in the URC and the 16th best team in the URC. And England have lost to that. After losing last week, by the way, to essentially Glasgow, just basically Glasgow plus Finn Russell beat them. And the week before that, they lost to a Ulster, Leinster Wolfhound. We'll call them the Wolfhounds. They've basically lost to the Wolfhounds. And it's like so much for your Prem. How do you like them apples? The amount of shit that URC fans have had to eat from the likes of Rugby Union Weekly, talking down to the URC every single week, pissing all over us. Oh, you have to get on a plane to South Africa every other week. Oh, it's not, you don't see the best players playing in it. Well, we've seen your best players playing now, and they got their asses handed to them 3 weeks in a row. So how is it going, lads? It's all the problems that you talk about with Welsh rugby. Welsh rugby's got problems. I'm not here to tell people the Welsh rugby does not have problems. It has problems. No money. Guess what? English rugby has got serious money problems, very serious money problems. Not enough players for 4 teams. Are you telling me that England have got enough players for 10 teams? Name an English Premiership side. Their best player is foreign. Bath's best player, Finn Russell. Scottish. Gloucester's best player, Thomas Williams. Welsh. Bristol. Do you want to go Ravovo? Do you want to go Tom Jordan? Do you want to go Lewis Summit? Where do you want to go with this? I'm just all the crap that we've had to eat as URC fans from the Prem. Just lie there and take it.
I just think it's such a good point of Welsh Rugby Union is in crisis, but when you look at the Premiership and how many teams they've lost, and then they've decided to ring fence the league as well to be like, oh yeah, this promotion and relegation didn't really work, but we're gonna wait until Wasps get back on their feet again to let them in essentially because they're doing that expansion thing. But wasn't it the Sale Sharks are the so in the red, but
Sale Sharks 8 million, Exeter 11 million, I think it was.
It's
10.
It's mental because it's just not a sustainable number. You would look at those players. And we made a joke about it for the Leinster team last week. But Bevan Rodd and Trevor Davison, I don't know who those guys are. It's one of those it's they could easily be AI generated names. I know who Seb Atkinson is because I do follow Gloucester. I would look at stuff in Gloucester as well. But yeah, it's one of those teams that I'm why was I scared of this team a couple of weeks ago? I think as you said, all the rugby podcast media is basically what BBC Sport, Rugby Union Weekly. You've got the For the Best, you've got the Ben Young's podcast and stuff, and they were saying England are going to win every single game. And I think Haskell said on the For Good to Rugby one that the only time that England might have a hiccup is against France, and that'll be a draw. And I was like, right, okay. But in reality, for me and Ethan, we're gonna have to support England next week. So, you have to step your shit up, lads. Please.
Well, to be fair, Adam, mathematically, if I'm correct, Scotland could still win it if we get a bonus point, and then if France beat England without any bonus points, I think Scotland could still win it. So it's kind of that would be good for the soul, but would make it even better for the soul is if Wales were to win and then England just plummet. It's like the good ending.
It's like the Star Wars ending when the Ewoks and all are happy. Would I take a loss? Would I take a loss? Would I take a loss against the Scottish to stand there next to a tree and see the ghost of Ronan O'Gara appear? Nodding yeah, maybe, yeah. But yeah, it's one of those that I'm it's making me have an identity crisis because I'm like, oh no, we're not winning the Six Nations next week, lads, are we? Should we just let Scotland have it? There you go, lads.
Seb Atkinson has won 2 games of rugby this season. Harlequins at home and Casts at home in the Champions Cup. And
To be
he's
fair,
played
it's
in the
hard
Premiership
winning.
Rugby Cup.
It's hard winning against Cass. Just ask any Munster fan.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like put respect on Seb's name. But yeah, I think Finn Smith had a really like it was one of those games that like you're kind of like, come on now, this is your chance. You're a lion. This is your chance. Nothing happened for him. And I was just a bit like, oh.
Do you remember when Elliot Daly played semi-decent against Western Force reserves and everybody said that he should start for the British and Irish Lions?
Hey, look, you know what? That Lions tour. Like looking back on it now, it was a weird time. Like it was a really weird time. You had Jamie Osborne playing a really good game of rugby, and I was like, he's had one good game. Like he to be fair, like that Lions tour, I think it really maybe settled in the fact that we had Jamie Osborne as a second fullback. But yeah, I just think like looking at Elliot Daly at 15, and as you said, in the year 2026, he's not the Elliot Daly of the past. Like he's not gonna run a ball like the way that you'd have Blair Kinghorn zipping through the French defense. If Elliot Daly catches that ball, he's gonna kick it or have a Dan Lancaster style acceleration and just sort of
It's
walk
like
up the
it's like
pitch.
that meme of like real time footage of Elliot Daly running, and it's just a still image.
Yeah, it's like it was like, we're living off this like high, but it's going to be really annoying me if they make it to another like World Cup semi-final because they've
Yeah.
walked through a couple of
They've
Pacific
got an
Nations
incredibly
team.
easy path. I think they face either Ireland or Argentina in the semi. So, you got to do God's work. I think Argentina would beat them at the moment, but everything the Borthwick master plan has been the biggest copium I've ever seen from a fan base ever. Like, oh, he's got us on the quest to World Cup glory. It's everything is a step on the plan. Which step on the plan is this? Exactly. Which 4D chess move are we muggles just not understanding at the moment, Or was it that he was never that good and you were just telling yourself lies to be able to cope with how bad your team is?
So I think I saw a stat earlier that lost to Italy first time at Borthwick, lost to Fiji for the first time,
I actually
Borthwick.
think that Fiji team is better than this Italy team. That's not really
Yeah,
relevant, but I just thought I'd say it anyway.
yeah. But I can't remember who the other one. He's lost someone to somebody else for the first time.
I've seen the same tweet and I sent it in a group chat,
Yeah.
so if I can find it.
Is it I just think like the possibility of we going to be like at this very start of this like Six Nations rewind, we all were like, oh, Grand Slam decider, France v England. Now we
Yeah.
have a wooden spoon decider. Like this
Yeah.
is like mental. Like we could have, like it's one of those where I'm like, I'm not quite hopeful for the championship because England are playing France. Whereas if you would have told me that at the start of the Six Nations, I'd have been like, decent chance.
Steve Borthwick's win rate with England is 56%. And you got to bear in mind how much of that is padded out with the likes of Japan and obviously that Fiji beat them, but Fiji should not be able to beat England. Okay, no, if you write it down, all the reasons on paper, Fiji should never be able to beat England. I love Fiji. They're playing against a generationally terrible Wales team every year, sometimes twice a year. That includes playing Chile at the Rugby World Cup. This is England. Like the Twickenham factor is a real thing. I've spent my entire life watching England play mostly crap, yet still somehow winning because it was at Twickenham. And so to have a 56% win rate as an England coach is abysmal. Like England's worst ever home defeat, 52-10, Steve Borthwick in charge. Second worst ever home defeat, 42-6 to South Africa. Steve Borthwick is captain. It's the third worst ever home defeat. Ireland 42, England 21. Steve Borthwick head coach. Like, there's a trend appearing here, lads. But again, I come back to it. Yes, it is fun to pick on Borthwick and stuff, but who are the players? Where are these Which of those players are you jealous of? Which of those players are you scared of? None. Just none.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
what
that.
was it? Oh, sorry, Adam.
No, no, Ethan.
No, I was going to say there was that stat a few weeks ago when it was like 9 or 10 of the English players are Scots qualified, and it's kind of like, well, how many of them do I actually want?
Yeah.
Because
Like that.
Henry Pollock, I remember Freddie Douglas ragdolled him at under 20s, which was very satisfying. But it's like Finn Smith, not even the best player called Finn. And it's just, yeah, you just go through the thing and it's like, another prop would be quite nice, but Bevan Rod, really, we've got, is he loose head or tight head? I can't remember.
I think he's
He
a loose head.
loose head. It's like, well, you've got Nathan Macbeth. It's like, we don't really need them.
I
You
just
can't
want to
say his name near any
remind
theatre.
everybody that uh, Wales have won the Six Nations more recently than England,
Well,
and
it's just it's meant like it's another player that I'm going to point out, and bearing in mind that he's like really good for Bath, but Ben Spencer being the scrum half as well. Like we talk about, rotating and building towards a World Cup. They've had a handful of scrum halves this Six Nations, and none of them have really stood out. Um,
scrum half's been a problem position for England for ages. I don't understand why more people don't talk about it. Like the under Eddie Jones, a scrum half will get like 2 games, then get dropped and never seen again. I've seen people like gassing up Rafi Quirk this season. I'm like, what? What nation is Rafi Quirk getting a cap for? Alex Mitchell is their best scrum half, and he has serious shortcomings to his game,
yeah.
and he's their best scrum half by a long way.
He's like painfully average. And like he's one of those players that I remember watching him play Ulster. I think it was just after COVID. It was like 2021 in a stadium. And I was like, when you see like a scrum half play and like from then on you kind of remember him. But like his career trajectory on paper has been mental. Like he was picked for like a Lions tour, and I'm like, is that just because everyone else's scrum halves at the time were either injured or not very good? It was one of those where, yeah, it was such a weird occurrence. But yeah, it's that scrum half debate is well, the scrum half issue is almost creating a bigger issue for everyone else. In that team, it's just heads were dropped. Ellis Skenge looked like his head was lost after another scrum. Like there was like this cut to him, and he had like a big like his eye was like busting with blood and stuff. And he just like looked at him like just looked confused. Like he was just like,
The
I don't know
scrum was
why
a
that.
lottery in this game. I thought the
It
referee had a
was.
tough game. It was his first Six Nations game, and I thought that it was a bit of a step up for him. Anyway, welcome to my TED talk about why Wee Georgie Horn is better than Alex Mitchell. Take a seat; it's going to be a long one. But bashing England is quite a lot of fun. I would quite like to keep going, but I'm trying to think if there's anything that I haven't yet said. I was on a podcast earlier talking about England. I did make some notes, see if there's anything that I've not said so far, because I am quite enjoying this. Um,
I, the one positive I could think about England was Sam Underhill played pretty well, and then he gave away a stupid yellow card. I thought that Underhill played pretty decent considering that he like was sort of shooed in the last minute, but he was the only player that I could think stood out in that England squad.
Yeah, I like Sam Underhill because obviously, from a Bath perspective, he's
you know
someone
which
you.
league he made his professional debut in? Pro 12.
Pro Tour? What?
Went to Swansea University, spent several seasons playing for the Ospreys.
Wow.
Back up to Justin Tipperick.
Jeez,
That
not
is
bad.
incredible ball knowledge. Um, but yeah, he was the only player that like really looked like he was there. But yeah, I just think it was just it is really funny, and it is really funny how we're like tearing it through. I don't see any like how can any type of coach that's available at the minute can fix this England squad. Scott Robertson would probably make a good sort of roll of the dice of it. He's probably the one that would probably break the bank for England to get. But yeah, even then, like Steve Botherick be a Scott Robertson like all black side as well. So, is it like the lesser of two evils, or do two wrongs make a right?
Yeah, I saw a tweet earlier talking about this, and it's kind of like England's best teams, like Bath, I'm trying to think who else. Harlequins aren't that great at the moment, but Northampton, they've got pretty good fast-paced attack. But why are they not taking the best bits of from that and taking it to the national team? Like, why is the
Northampton are
English?
the one Premiership team that is English, has an English core. It's got
Mm,
fully English 10, 12, 13. I think both wingers, and fullback, like an all English backline. So I don't understand, and obviously they got to a European Cup final. They've been good, decent in the Premiership and stuff. They've had up and down form, but they've won a title recently.
mm.
I don't understand why the English spine isn't Northampton based. Yes, there's been injuries, but the way that, a couple of bad defeats and he completely abandons the Dingwall Freeman centre partnership, like, do you really have something better? And the answer was no. It's so often with England, you see the back line, 7 positions, 6 clubs represented. There's a reason that nobody else does it like that, right? Even Wales has
Yeah.
gone with like a 3 or 4 out of 7 Scarlets back line. Obviously, we know about Ireland and cohesion ball. Scotland just picking Glasgow, France, Toulouse, and UBB. Italy, obviously, mostly Benetton. New Zealand were the Crusaders for ages. South Africa were the Stormers, now Sharks, or however you want to cut it. Whereas England are just like, yeah, a bit of everything, really. And guess what? It falls apart. So anyway, um, any closing thoughts? Any parting shots on England?
No. This is it's we're living in I think I posted on the group chat after I had a few pints in the pub afterwards just to like soak it in, breathe it in. Because like the three score lines, like it wasn't like that great for Wales, but I was just like breathe it in. It was an absolute generational weekend of rugby results in the Six Nations that will we ever see the like again? I don't know.
We'll
Is it
never
the
see a
tables?
weekend like this again. We'll never see a weekend like this again.
No.
Anyway, it is now time to talk about next weekend, and I'm just going to let you two talk about what you think is going to happen in Scotland versus Ireland or Ireland versus Scotland.
It's a hard one to predict because, I mean,
I'm not predicting anything because last week I
obviously,
said that Italy have never beaten England, and look how that turned out for me. So I'm definitely not saying that Ireland got the hoodoo over Scotland because apparently nothing matters anymore.
because it's like Ireland, obviously, Ireland had a rough one against France the first game, and then, convincingly beat England. Sure, they managed to survive against Wales at home, but then that's a Wales that are on the up, gradually on the up. And, they almost beat us. So it's hard to read into I think it depends on how Scotland approach it. That they always say for like the last pretty much 10 years, they've thought of everything, they've tried every different thing going into this match, and nothing's worked. Stay calm or be really angry, just stuff like that. And it's just nothing's worked. And maybe now with how they've reacted through this tournament, that, sure, we've had the annual beating England, had an awful game against Italy, but, managed to win ugly against Wales, backing up that England performance, which they've not done, and then completely managed to out wrestle France in quite spectacular fashion. Maybe they could do it. It just, they just have to keep doing what they're doing, and we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting point. This is the most worried I've ever been in a week to play Scotland. I think this is the now or never. And we don't want to, like playing teams right now, especially in the now or never sort of feeling to it. I feel like the Scotland's team know it, and that's how the position of how they won in France as well. Um, Ireland needs to tidy up games, like tidy up like parts of their games and aspect. If we were to even like think about winning this game against Scotland, our scrum has been better. Um, our line out has been better as the Six Nations goes on. This is a tournament that we've grown into all right. It hasn't really struck me with confidence. Like on one hand, I was really excited to see Scotland beating France, but on the other hand, I was sort of like, oh, we play them next week. And I think the Aviva's got a lot to do with how well we play in terms of like it is a fortress. I think we've only lost something like 2 games in the last how many years in the Aviva. Um, I just think that it's that last weekend of the Six Nations as well. It's always St. Patrick's Day weekend, and it's always just like, oh, can Ireland just throw a better ball for a couple of like, can we do it? The Triple Crown is there to be won. There is history there. I just don't know how to call it. Much like Ethan, I think Ethan's probably a lot more excited than I am. I think you'd be probably rubbing your hands at this game looking at it. I don't think we've had our best game in the Six Nations. I think we need to do our best game in the Six Nations if we were to beat Scotland. We need to play way better than what we did against England. And I think that England's form has sort of projected that as well, on how poorly they've been playing. But I just think for an Irish standpoint, we're playing against this Scottish team that in their head, as I said, now or never, history to be made. As you said, Ethan, if there was a bonus point there, win there, that would be your first Six Nations since the old Five Nations in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I wasn't born then. Like I haven't seen, I guess,
Yeah.
like that type of thing as well. So yeah, there's a lot on Scotland's shoulders, but I almost think that puts more pressure on an Ireland standpoint.
It would be incredibly funny if we do manage to do it because we would still be reigning Five Nations champions because we lost to Italy.
It's
But
it, it's incredibly funny as well that the Six Nations trophy has combusted at the thought of Scotland losing it as well.
Oh,
Like,
if they win the title, but the trophy that they lift is a fake one because the real one burned in a fire.
it's a Timu style trophy.
Just a
Like,
cardboard cutout. Just make it a cardboard cutout of it. It's like the real trophy's not here. Sorry.
yeah,
it's a
just
shame. Oops. Oh, sorry, Adam.
no, you think go.
I was going to say it's a shame that this game's first on Super Saturday
Yeah.
because it's the sort of thing that it'd be if it was second or third, it'd be great. But depending how it goes, my Saturday's going to be really fucking shit.
It's one of those where I mentioned this somewhere, I don't remember where, but I was like, I would love it if it was like the last day of the Premier League where all 3 games kick off at the same time. So you just have people like on their phones like cheering on one side, you just hear it and then like if we like I just think
There's been a
there'd
try
be
at the Aviva, but for who? Chris Kamara.
yeah, I don't know. Probably Robert Balakin because he's been
Oh
class.
no.
But but it's been one of those where you just hear like groans and just like, England have scored again, and you'd hear the Aviva scream louder than you'd ever hear the Aviva scream. But it like the beauty of that is just like a couple of years ago we played Scotland. And it was the year actually the 55-33 game when we won by a points difference of 5 points. And the Irish rugby team went out on Murrayfield in suits. They allowed the Irish supporters to stay in the stadium to watch the game. They came out in suits and they lifted the trophy, and I was like, "That's so cool! Like, we need that again. Like, you need either Scotland or Ireland to just come in like a nice suited up presentation. Like, the trophy's not real, but let's look our best for it." But yeah, I think the unpredictability is a beauty for the next weekend. But as we said, it could be a very sad weekend for either me or Ethan. So we'll see how it is next Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, and then on to what do I even want to think about next? Wales, Italy. I do think that we could win.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is
Because if we
that
can only score 2 tries a game, but they can only score 2 tries a game, it should be close, maybe.
but Italy goes for penalties, and that was the difference that made them win against England.
Oh, they're going to beat us 9-3, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh. But I genuinely think there's something there. If I tell you what, and this is niche, but if Italy were Argentina, we definitely beat them. You know, in the Rugby Championship, when Argentina beat the All Blacks and then they get smashed in the next game, because they've had the like, oh, the big thing happened. That's what would happen. So maybe, you know, quick turnaround. The Italians will didn't have their take their eye off the ball. Maybe. Um,
It's a chance as well. If Wales win it comfortably and England lose, we could have a wooden spoon for England. And that like it's one of those where on one hand, I would be like, oh, Italy could have like Italy in theory, if they would have beaten Ireland, would have been like triple crown winners. They would have been inaugural, like let them have it, lads. They beat everyone. But it was one of those where I do want Wales to win it because then that completes the circle of Six Nations wins and beats. You can have a perfect circle of people who've beaten people because everyone's beaten everyone once then. So, and that would be, I don't remember the last time that happened because there's been a few Grand Slams, to be fair, in the last 6 or so years.
it's sensational scenes. What a time to be alive. But then, of course, if Italy do win, it's their best ever Six Nations. So, whatever happens, it's headlines. And
Yeah.
speaking of which, we'll go on now to talk about England versus France or France versus England. Bringing out a special edition kit is always risky, very, very risky. And if it goes wrong for France, oh, the resale value of that kit is going to absolutely plummet. And I shall definitely buy one at a very discounted rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But surely France have got to be that. They got to be that, surely.
Hugh, you said this last week about Italy.
Oh, no. Speaking as a man who's wrong about everything.
I I honestly think that England have the possibility to do the funniest thing next weekend.
Yeah.
And this Six Nations, if England do it, it would probably be one of the best Six Nations in recent memory. I feel like it has been a really good Six Nations, and it's made me enjoy watching all the games of rugby, and everything's like you cannot miss a game next Saturday. Like if there was any plans for next Saturday, they're off. But
I'm
England
suit
have the
shopping in Birmingham.
Oh, fair enough.
Hmm.
You'd have it on your phone. But it's
Yeah.
one of those where England have the opportunity to do the funniest thing and change 10 players in their squad and get some type of 1 point win.
Yeah.
It would just be quite funny. Like
Oh, that's such a
it
good
just
point. What does he do with selection next week? He's already thrown the Hail Mary. Now what?
he's gonna select Ben Youngs and Dan Cole. He's gonna look at that Ireland legends played England legends, and he's gonna start looking through that team to be like, who's still got legs? Who's still got legs?
I haven't given any English podcasts any hate listens to yet. I've got Rugby Union Weekly queued up. Knowing Rugby Union Weekly, they'll probably not even talk about the game. They'll probably just deny it ever happened, or just to talk about something else, talk about the weather or something. Um, but I do like For the Love of Rugby. I do think that it is a good, but probably the best ex-pros podcast. So fair play to it. Um, so surely France have got to beat that. Surely.
I don't know now. I don't know. Cut to next week. Cut to next week and we'll see what happens. But it's one of those where I do think this Six Nations is relatively unpredictable. And through that unpredictability, I can see an England like 1 point score win. I
It's
can just
England.
see
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
sorry.
I was going to say England just have to play as ugly and as boring rugby as they can. Get the caterpillar 50 to 14 man caterpillar ruck. That's what they need to do. They need to take the absolute piss. Get George Ford back on. Keep drop
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
And just demoralize France. That's what they need to do.
Their best game in the Berthrick era was when George Ford kicked 70 drop goals against Argentina.
Yeah.
That's what they need. They need to play like every maul, everyone in. Like it's like
Yeah.
every man for himself. Like you have to throw everything at this because they don't want the wooden spoon. This would be like they don't want the wooden spoon. Wales don't want the wooden spoon. France want to win a title, Scotland want to win a title, Ireland want to win a title. This Super Saturday is going to be incredible for shithousery. And I welcome our Italian overlords for doing it. Like Italy and Scotland are the reasons why we are in this like cascade of I don't know what's happening anymore.
Well, on the note of those non-predictions, it's time to bring us to an end. So if you've gotten all the way to the end, you've clearly enjoyed it somewhat, or at least hated it enough that you needed to catch every single second. So, whichever one that is, subscribe, like, 5 stars, share with friends, comments down below. We do not hold responsibility for any replies to any comments. That is producer Lee who replies to the comments, and he's off the chain, so that's not our fault. So that just leaves me to say thank you to Irish Adam, Scottish Ethan.
Cheers, thank you.
I've been Welsh Hugh. Enjoy your rugby, and I hope that everybody's team, apart from England, wins. Cheers.